Chris Petri here. Welcome everyone. Thanks for coming by. We're doing another great painting today. We're going to do a beautiful coastal scene, a seascape style painting. We have gorgeous light coming from in front of us, so we're painting into the light. The light's coming towards us, so we see beautiful light coming through the clouds. We have a rain cloud coming here. Beautiful wet sky. We're doing the glazing technique, everybody. Everyone loves the glazing technique. I know if you're following me on a regular basis, you have a lot of fun when you do my glazing technique paintings, I'm sure. Am I right? Yes, we have a great time when we do our glazing technique. It's a lot of fun. So that's the technique we're using here. And then, of course, we're going to have some beautiful mountains, some gorgeous trees here, some nice dark trees, pine trees along the water, and these little small areas here where the water is kind of all just going out into the fields, and all kinds of interesting little trees and things. You're going to have a great time. Let's start up. We'll get started. We'll do the pencil drawing first, which goes pretty quick because it's not a really complex drawing here. So this will be really fun for you. You're not going to be too stressed on the drawing portion. And as well, the painting is going to go really easy too. It's pretty straightforward. We're going to show every step of the way, all the colors you're going to use. I'm going to show you each color. I'll explain how to mix it on your palette, so you won't have anything missing out of this video. Everything's going to be covered completely 100%, so you can create this exact same style painting. It'll be beautiful. You'll put it in a frame, maybe you'll paint 2 or 3, maybe you'll do a couple different color schemes on your paintings. You know, you can always do this like at sunset and make it more warmer looking with like an orange and red sky. You can have a lot of fun with these style paintings when you do the glazing technique and you do these coastal type paintings. You can really change them and, you know, be very creative with it. So, but in this one, we're doing that nice cool day. Maybe it's like around middle of the day, noontime or so, lights coming through, and we're just going to paint this and have a great time. So let's get ready, grab our pencils, we'll grab our gear, our brushes, our paints, and we're going to get started, okay? Okay, we just saw the finished painting right in the very first minute of the video here. We're working on this tutorial. We're going to have a lot of fun. It's going to be really enjoyable. We're doing a beautiful seascape, kind of like some marshes and wetlands along the coastal areas. Always beautiful. We're going to have kind of like a cloudy, rainy sky. So like kind of a moody, atmospheric type of painting. The color scheme, the colors in this are kind of simple, not too many colors really. We're going to keep it to maybe like a lot of blues and greens and some gold in there and a little bit of orange. So you'll see it's not going to be a tremendously complicated painting as far as colors go. So we'll get started here. What I'm going to do is kind of just make my decision when I first start. Well, the first thing I always do is I try to get a border around my painting like so. So I just have the idea of where I'm going to be working within the rectangle here, just like that. And then after I do that, I'm going to start planning out where my space divisions are going to be. So where is my water, like the horizon line for my water, going to be, and my distant mountains and distant hills? And I think I'm going to go with 1/3. So 1/3 up from the bottom, I'll make a mark, and that's sort of going to be where the hills are going to be, and the water all through here, and then the sky will be about 2/3 of it, you know, the rest of the painting from here on up. And I think that looks good. It might even be a little bit better to go a little bit more, not halfway though. About 1/3 of the way is fine. And if we kind of look at our paper, we can always gauge it and say, is this about 1/3? Well, here's 1/3. Here's 1/3, and here's 1/3. So it's a little bit more than 1/3 up, but it's pretty close. So we'll do that, and we're going to start our sketch, and we'll do just nothing too tremendously dark. Maybe I'll just turn this brightness down a little bit on my lighting here. That might help a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to start off here. I'm going to make this is going to be like some grass and like a sandbar here. There's going to be a lot of water in this painting. A lot of like bay and marshes and things. So we're going to have that there. Okay, that's there. Then we're going to have, from there, we're going to start to have some other distant marshes over here. Like so, and then a little more over here, like that. This one will go a little further there. Then over here, we'll work our way this way. And now this side over here is going to be a little higher up. So we're going to have the grass and like a little bit of a field here along the coast. It's going to go this way and then come out a little bit this way. And then we'll start to see some sharper kind of points of the shoreline here, where there's some grass, weeds, and mud and things like that coming out into the water area. And then this here we're going to have slowly drifting this way. This, and then there's some more grass over here, and some more grass over here. So we're kind of coming this way a little bit with the grass over here, and then we'll start working our, so we have plenty of grass and marshes over here, and let's add in some lights. So let's kind of do that. Let's add in pencil in some really light lights where you're going to leave some marshy water over here, and then we'll do some trees over here. So we're going to have some trees. We'll have some interesting trees in the distance over here. They're going to be dark and looking real good, like pine trees and things along the coastal area here. And there might be some more land over here, like so, like this, and then we're going to have more trees over here. So these are distant trees. They don't look too large. They're sort of like that. They'll be pretty dark in the painting. And then behind the trees over here, we're going to have the mountains. Those are going to be distant mountains. They're going to look really light. And then over here, we have a bit of this, a little bit of a peninsula coming out here. And we'll do some trees over here. These are going to be a little larger. I'm just kind of roughing them in, but they're going to be a little larger than the ones over here. These are more in the far distance. These here are closer to us, so you're going to kind of see that they're... Just going to get some more of these in, like so. And then we'll continue on with our distant hill, like this, like that. And over here, the distant hills are also going to trail across over here. So we're going to have multiple layers of hills. You'll have like these grassy peninsulas coming out with mud and grass over here in the foreground, and grass and mud and marshes. And then as you go back here, you're going to have distant grassy hills this way. And then in the farther distance here, pretty far out, probably like a mile away, if we were standing here looking at the scene, so maybe a mile away, we'll have the distant like light blue. We're going to use some really beautiful Prussian blue on this painting, and lots of greens and golds. So you'll see how we're going to really make some beautiful colors in this painting, and we're going to make a big beautiful sky with rain. We're going to make a rain style sky with rain clouds and rain coming down, kind of that stormy look, atmospheric look. And we're really, pretty much we have our foreground done here. And of course we'll put some weeds some sticks, a little bit of things like that. Just here and there. We'll paint those in. I just remember to put, it's always good to kind of put a few little upright weeds or sticks, maybe some trees that have been broken and have been flooded and they're kind of dead and fallen over and they're just sticking up little small trunks of things. That's how it looks when you're out in the marshes and things along the coastal areas. You know, some things get flooded out for a couple of years and they die off, like trees and weeds and all that kind of stuff, and small bushes, and then they come back to life again eventually when the water recedes, if the water is tending to be a little bit lower after some time. So all the fun goings on at the coastal areas that we're going to be contemplating here. So we have a pretty good pencil drawing now, sketched in, roughed in, and the rest we can do with our paint. And the sky, we can kind of have an idea. Maybe we'll just gently, very, very ever so lightly, just maybe have a little bit of a super light sketch that you can barely see, where you're going to put in just maybe some ideas of some clouds that you might want to put in. So I'm kind of putting in where I think I'm going to have my rain cloud. I'll have my rain cloud over here coming down like this. And then I'll have a little bit of an opening in the sky over here with some more brighter light. And then over here I'll go a little darker again over this area here. So I kind of just plan out my sky a little bit, and then you'll see as I go how I paint it. But I don't want to go too dark with my pencil lines in the sky because that might show through and that might not look so good. You can go darker always with your pencil lines when you're doing your ground level things like your mountains, your trees, bushes, all that good stuff. But the sky is usually, you want to kind of not have too much pencil lines in the sky because that sometimes doesn't look so great. All right, so we are prepped with our pencil drawing. I'm glad you're sticking with us here and following along on the pencil drawing. And we're going to just take a quick break, maybe for 5-10 minutes at most, and I'll come right back and we'll start the painting. We're gonna have a great time doing this, and I'm glad you're here. And if this is your first time, I always mention, if this is your first time ever coming by my YouTube channel, I want to really welcome you. And YouTube is a great place to learn watercolor. There's so many great artists out there, and I'm really happy to be here and sharing my ideas on watercolors, my methods and techniques. And I always mention that I always cover the basics of watercolor every week, every month, and even year after year. I've been always covering the fundamentals, the basics of watercolor. So this way, if you're following along every week, even if you're not painting every painting, you're still going to hear all of the terminology that I use. That's going to actually, you'll hear it and you'll remember it after a while, and then you'll start to learn the vocabulary of watercolor, because there's a large vocabulary in watercolor, that's for sure. You got to learn about colors, washes. You learn about things like perspective with a drawing, three-dimensional, two-dimensional drawings, three-dimensional drawings, pencil sketches, contour drawing. What's the difference between contour drawing and a light pencil sketch? And then sketching and roughing things in. There's all different kinds of terms and things in watercolor. So I'm usually doing a lot of different stuff all the time. And if you're hanging out here and watching my videos, you're going to learn all that terminology, all the definitions of things, and that will build your knowledge up as a watercolor artist. And that's really going to help you tremendously, because then you're going to have all those skills and knowledge in your toolbox when you're going in and doing your paintings. And it'll be a lot more easy to paint and create beautiful paintings if you kind of have all that knowledge that you gather as we're together here doing our paintings and our compositions and working every week. So again, thank you so much for coming by. And I also have Extreme Beginners series videos that you can always check out if you're just starting out and you've never did a stick figure or painted at all, but you still want to try. All you have to do is type in Extreme Beginners, and you'll see those videos that I do on a weekly basis as well. They're a little more simple, and there's more simple art supplies, so I'm not using very fancy tube paints and very fancy brushes and expensive gear on those videos. I'm just using a real simple setup, so you don't have to spend a lot of money when you get started. You could just spend a little bit of money, $20, $30, $40, and you can get started with some very inexpensive supplies, and you'll be on your way to starting. And you really don't need really good supplies right in the beginning when you're just first starting. I just want to mention that. You just need very basic inexpensive art supplies when you first start, and then after a while, maybe 6 months to a year later, when you really feel like you're ready for the next level and you want to purchase maybe a nice palette with some tube paints like this, you know, some tube paints that you squeeze in and you get a little more rich colors and exciting and vibrant colors going on in your paintings, then you'll be ready for that. But when you're just starting out, extreme beginners videos that I do, check those out. And also come and watch all videos that I do, because again, I explain everything as I go, and you'll learn all that information as you join us here each week and every month and year after year. Okay? All right, I'll be right back and we'll get started. All right, we did a wonderful and fantastic job doing our pencil sketch. Now we're ready to go in and do some painting, the fun part. Sketch is done. Let's start up with some fresh, clean water. Let's always start out when we're doing a sky wash. Always, sky washes, you always need fresh, clean water in your water bucket, your water pail, your glass of water, whatever you use for your water pail and water bucket container, water container. So what I'm going to do is I want to make this a rainy, kind of like a stormy sky. So the first thing I'm going to do is take fresh, clean water and just sort of go up and wet the paper like that with my brush here. Especially, I want to soak the paper pretty good up top, and then as it comes down, wet the whole sky pretty much. You can leave some spots where there's no, you know, you can leave it hit and miss. You don't have to have every bit of the paper covered, but you know, you definitely want to have it coming down. You want to pre-wet the paper coming down into the water area. Also into your, so you basically want to, wherever this is all water over here on this left side, so this you definitely want to get a good bit of clean, fresh, clean, crystal clear water over here on the water areas, and then on the mountain areas too. The mountains are going to kind of be covered with some nice Prussian blue. And then, as we, again, I said, now that we're gonna let this sit, let this start to just the water to soak in. Then we're gonna start over here, and let's get our Prussian blue in there, and we'll put some burnt sienna in there, and some burnt umber, a little bit of burnt umber, tiniest bit of burnt umber. A little bit of cobalt blue maybe. Let's get a nice, maybe a little bit of French ultramarine blue too. So let's get a good mixture of colors. That looks good. And let's get more in there though, because we have a pretty big sky here. So let's get that. Mix it up a little more. Again, you want to add some of that burnt sienna in there. A little bit of burnt umber, just a tiny bit of that. A little bit of French ultramarine blue. So nice blue. Okay, now we're going to also want to have some yellow ochre or raw sienna. Raw sienna is good for sky. It's kind of more transparent. So let's do that. We'll have some raw sienna over here on the bottom of the palette. So we're going for the sky and the water right now. And also a little bit of cadmium orange on the right side over here. So what we're doing now is we're planning out and putting our colors in our palette so that we can go in and start painting, and we won't be running out of paint and frantically thinking, oh my god, it's drying. So the best plan is always get as much of your washes put into your palette first, get your colors that you're going to use, put them in there for the first glazing. We're going to use the glazing technique here. So the glazing technique is very simple. One light glazing across the whole painting with your first bit of colors that you're going to choose for the foundation of your painting. That's going to be the underpainting, and in this case it'll be most of the sky, the finished sky. So with that being said, I'm going to get some more raw sienna, a little bit of yellow ochre again, and some more of that. Okay, yellow ochre and some cadmium orange here, And then we're using all of our blues pretty much. We're using cobalt blue, mostly Prussian blue, a little bit of French ultramarine, and then a little tiny bit of burnt sienna and burnt umber to just kind of mellow out the blue a little bit. And I think that looks pretty good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my water again. The water's a little bit murky. Actually, we can live with that. That looks pretty good. So it's a little bit, we're going to be doing a lot of the blue sky anyway, so that's not going to matter, but that's still pretty clear. So that water's still pretty good. We can use this. All right, let's get in. But before we do that, let's flood this over here. This is going to be where the rain cloud is, and the rain flowing down, like so. So I'm going to kind of help that over here with some rain, with some water kind of flowing down like this, and that's going to be the area where we're going to have most of the rain coming into the scene. And then over here we're having more, just some wetness on the paper. Doesn't have to be everywhere. And then we just kind of go down and do the same thing, kind of wet the paper up a little more. Again, you can see my paper's buckling a little bit, and never worry about it if your paper starts to buckle. Just deal with it, whatever it is. Work through it. Don't get worried about it. Just say the heck with it. Work with it. Okay, buckled paper is not going to cause too much of a problem. Okay, so now we're going to go in and do that. Get that water color in there. Colors of water, water of colors. Okay, like this. And you always remember too, watercolor dries lighter. So don't be worried about going dark like this. Now I'm going to do some of that gold over here. The orange and the gold up here. Like that. I always have a tissue as well, and this way you can blot up if there's too much puddles. If you start to get big puddles on your painting, no big deal. Just blot them up a little bit with your tissue. That's all you have to do. And you can kind of see I'm trying to get my I'm going to try to get my rain cloud in here. So I'm trying to get that feel of the rain coming down like so. Like that. Looks pretty good. And then now I'll just go across where the mountains are, like that. We're going to do a lot more work to this painting. Remember, this is just the first light glazing you do. And so if you're doing your first light glazing, you have to remember everything's going to be all right. And I put a little bit of that orange, cadmium orange there. And a little bit there in the water reflecting down. So whatever's in the sky, it reflects down into the water. And this is the water here. So that's going to be our water. And then we have a puddle there. Let's lift that up with the... This is grass over here. So if you add a little bit of blue to the grass, that's fine. And then I'm going to try to lift up this bit of... So sometimes you can tap up a little bit of that orange to get that more lighter look over here. So the light is more here, and it's going to reflect down into the water here. So you can kind of dab up a little bit of paint and water from this section of the water here, so you have that light feel in there. And then over here you can get some more, there's some more blue over here in the water. So let's get that other blue here in the water. I'm going to try to make this a little more blue with some cerulean blue, some cobalt blue, like this. And we're just getting the whole paper pretty much covered with the first glazing. And you can lift up some more. You can always go over with a darker wash later. So if you want to lift up a little more paint, you can do that, and then you can come back in later and add darker washes. This is going to be trees over here and mountains and things, so you don't have to worry about that. So we'll go over all this area here like that. And the same thing over here. And that's going to be some green grass over here. And you saw the finished painting. And hopefully you're able to somehow save my finished painting from the beginning of the video so you can refer back to it all the time. But I think this is looking good. This is the first glazing now. The main point we take away from this is we have to let this now dry 100%. And there's one of two ways you can do that. The first way you can let this all dry is by letting it sit for 2 hours or more, 2-3 hours. So let's say you have to go out and do some errands, or you have to go out shopping, or do some things with your family, or whatever it is, or do some chores. If you let this dry 2-3 hours, it'll be fine. Or you can use a hair dryer to dry this, like in 10 minutes, not even 5 minutes with a hair dryer, and this will be nice and dry. So you make the choice what you want to do. You could let it dry naturally, which is better. It turns out to be a better painting if you let it dry naturally, because the paints and water soak down into the paper nice and slow, and it looks a little better when it dries finally, when it's completed. But it's still, if you're practicing and doing compositions like this and you're not really going for a finished painting that you're going to frame or sell or give to somebody for a gift, and you're just doing it to practice, the hair dryer is a great way to go. So this way you can keep working. So maybe you do the hair dryer, maybe you take a break for 10-15 minutes, and then you come back and maybe use the hair dryer, and then that's it, and then you can start up again. So let's do that. I'm going to take a 5-10 minute break. I'll use the hair dryer a little bit if I need to, and then we'll get started again. So I'm really happy you're here, and we're doing a great job so far. We understand this process that we're doing for the glazing technique, which is basically pencil drawing in, get water on the paper as much as you need to for the effect you're looking for, and then you're going to mix your colors that you need for your painting that you feel you're going to use. You need you lay out your colors into your palette, and then you maybe wet the paper just a little more one more time, or if it's starting to dry, or you can mix your colors first and then wet your paper and then go in and paint. So sometimes I get ahead of myself. I wet the paper first and then I mix my colors, but you could do it either way. But it's probably best to just mix your colors first, then wet the paper, and then go in and add your colors and get your first glazing in like this. And that's what we pretty much have done here. So let's take a break and we'll be right back. Okay, we're picking back up again. We are ready to start our second glazing. This is going to be with more thicker paint, darker tonal values, thicker paint. You'll see how we mix our colors in just a second. First thing I'll do is I'll grab some paper towels, and we're just going to want to clean up the palette a little bit. And what tends to happen is if we start to leave too much color in our palette and water puddles in our palette, we'll tend to just start using it, and the next thing you know, we're watering down our colors that we're trying to mix, because we're trying to mix darker washes now, which means more paint, less water, essentially. And then, so with that being said, if we leave puddles of water in this palette, and we start putting out thicker paint, and then the next thing you know, we're mixing into the puddles. We're going to water down our darker washes, so we don't want to do that. That's why I just cleaned up my palette a little bit and took out the puddles, and I want to start with new fresh colors, and we will remember what colors we used. That won't be a problem. And so we're going to go in with a smaller brush now. So I'm going to use a Raphael number 6 watercolor brush. These are Kolinsky sable hair brushes, round brushes. And so let's concentrate on the first thing. Let's use our larger brush again. We were using a Winsor Newton number 10 round brush. Let's do the distant mountain here first. Then we'll go in and do the trees and things. I want to get that done first. So I'll change my water. Start out with some fresh, clean water again. And I'll have a tissue on hand just in case I need to dry off my brush a little bit. And let's get these mountains in here. So we're going to use cobalt, well, that's Prussian blue, a little bit of French ultramarine blue, a little bit of yellow ochre, and we'll start getting in our mountains here. Maybe we'll add in a little bit of the burnt sienna. We'll gray down the blue a little more, and we can go right over these trees here because these trees are going to be really dark. And you can just kind of see, I'm going to make sure that my brush kind of flows along here like so. And that's all. I'm just going left to right across. I might use a little bit of cobalt blue just to change up a little bit, maybe some of the color. And then go back in, we'll get a little more of the Prussian blue and a little bit of the gold, yellow ochre. And we can go right over those bushes. That's not a big deal. And I think we'll go over with another glazing over here too. We'll make this a little bit more. We'll just go over with another glazing here, that's all. And we'll leave it lighter over here. So we're going to let that light over here kind of let's let this light come down here. There's some light over here too. Maybe we'll lighten this up over here too as well a little bit. So I guess the concept is we try to mirror our light in our sky down into our water over here. I think I went a little too dark, but we don't, it's not going to be a big deal. We can deal with that. And then that should be good. And then I blot up a little bit of paint with the tissue. Okay, I think we have this looking good here. And I just might lightly go across like that, just to kind of feather these edges in nicely so that there's no like abrupt looking lines or anything. So I just kind of feather these in over here to the coastal area where there's the grass. There's going to be grass over here, and there's trees all through here, but you can kind of see we're really making good progress. I think we're getting there. We're almost finished with the painting, actually. We're just going to have to do some darker darks for the trees and some green grass over here. And some little bit of darks here and there, maybe for the edges of the marshy areas here where the grass is, and a bit of marsh and fields and things like that. So let's keep working. I think we have enough working time done here that this is already starting to dry, so we can start working. And of course, when you're using thicker paints, when we're doing our darker darks now, when you're using thicker paints, you can paint over little damp areas that are damp, and it won't be a problem so much. You have to kind of test it as you go. So when you're painting, you kind of test you start out with a little spot, and then you see what happens, and if it looks okay and it's safe, you keep working with it. So let's do that. Let's take maybe we'll use some raw umber and some of that. Absolutely, let's use some more Prussian blue, because that's basically the painting is mostly Prussian blue. That's the main color and the main wash that we're using. And then now we're going to start going in and adding some sap green, olive green, burnt sienna, French ultramarine blue. So I'm kind of using a lot of colors here. I'm trying to get the darkest dark is, let's say over here, the French ultramarine blue and burnt umber, burnt sienna. That would be like your darkest dark range over here. Then your middle range is sort of the sap green and olive green here with some raw umber, and then some Prussian blue kind of mixed throughout. But I think this is good. Let's try it out and see what happens here. So we're going to go over here. It looks good. And I'm going to go to a smaller brush now. I'm going to use the number 6 Raphael. And I'm just going to scrub on those trees like so. And then we can also take some raw umber down here. Yellow ochre, raw umber, a little bit of sap green maybe. We could start to put in a little bit of the grasses and things here. And you can kind of see I'm just doing strokes to the right here, brush strokes to the right as I'm doing the grass and edges of the grass fields here where the trees are. And then as I do that, then I'm like, okay, now let me work on some more trees here. So let's do that. Trees tend to work really good if you can kind of use circular motions like this. So you kind of just do circular motions like that. And then they tend to be a little darker at the base of the trees here. You just get in some happy trees here. And if you have to mix more darks, you just kind of know what you're going to do. You're going to go back in and get your French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, burnt sienna, sap green, and you kind of just mix them around just a little bit like that. That's the darker spots there. Then when we want to get more of a middle tonal value, we go with the olive green, sap green, Prussian blue too as well. Prussian blue over here as well. Let's keep using that. Oh, look at that. That's a great dark right there. So some of your trees over here can be a couple dark bushes and trees over here. Those look good. They're usually a little bit lighter on top and darker at the base. And we'll change up the colors here. So it's always good to kind of modulate your colors as you go across doing your trees here. So we wouldn't just mix like one color and then just start going down the whole line here, painting all of these trees the same color. We want to keep them all looking a little bit different from one another, but not drastically. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to keep mixing colors and kind of coming up with pretty much the same bit of colors, just maybe a little different here and there, just to change up with things. And then maybe here we'll do like that. like that. Then maybe we'll go down here and we'll get some more of that shore for the peninsula here. A little bit of peninsula. I guess I call it a peninsula. Just like a bit of mud and grass going out into the water here. Like that. And incidentally, the light is coming from in front of us, shining this way. So that's why we're seeing these dark trees and things. And we'll also see some shadowing too over here in the water. Just a little bit of indications of some shadowing. I wouldn't go too, I would quick and fast. That's all. We don't. Does that make sense? When you're doing like these type of reflections in the water, definitely just get a little bit of shadow in there. Don't make it too dark. Just get an indication of it, but don't overdo it. That'll look better. If you're going too dark with it, it might be overstating it and kind of not really blend in with the painting overall. So that's all. Like that. And then maybe a little bit of indications of water like that. A little bit of, do a little of those side, kind of back and forth like this. Just kind of hit and miss. A little bit here and there. Like that. That's going to look good. And I don't think I want too much light showing through the trees here. In between the trees, it looks better kind of when they're close, snugged up together, close like that. That looks better. You could even go darker in the center of them. So you're kind of leaving like a little bit of rim lighting around these. So again, the light's coming from behind us, shining this way, like towards us. So you'll see more light around the outer edges of the trees, and then where the thicker parts of the trees are, and the light's not kind of getting through those areas, that's going to be the darker areas, which would be sort of like the center of the trees. So you can kind of do that rim lighting effect, like that. Like that. Damp brush to just blend it in a little bit. I'll mix up a little more dark, burnt umber, French ultramarine blue, a little bit of Prussian blue, raw umber. Sometimes you really got to get some dark, thick paint on there to get your darks in here, because they can really, darks can really make your painting look fantastic. If you go too light all through this passage here where the trees are here, that can really, so we're always going to try to get those really rich darks in here. I think that looks good. And we could come over here and we'll work on these. And these are some blue. These are a little more in the distance, so I might add a little more blue to these trees, maybe. They might be a little lighter because they're in the distance here. And again, the same idea. Let's get the darker parts of the trees in the lower portion of the trees, and leave a little bit of the lighter portions up top. That looks pretty good. Now you'll see that there's some light here which kind of looks like a mountain or a hill behind here. That just happens to be an area where I should have probably brought that paint down all the way to the bottom here where the trees are. But what we'll do is we'll work around it and see. We'll work with it and kind of get a wash in there somehow. Once this dries, though, we don't want to do anything now. And there's some more distant hills over here that kind of go down into the water. And I think I'm able to just get that wash in there like this. And we can make that a little more. We could even make this another hill back here, like so. So that's why when you think you might have a problem with something, don't worry about it. We'll make this into like a hill, like this. Like a rolling hill, a nice rolling hill over here. Maybe we'll go up here like this. That looks okay. Like that. Okay, so everything is looking fine. Let's get our larger brush again. We'll do some grass over here, some grass. So let's do, and we can reuse all these colors here because these makes for some good color here. So we're going to use olive green, sap green. We'll use a little bit of this mix here, a little bit of yellow ochre, like that, yellow ochre. Let's give it a try here. That looks good. So you'll see I'm going to use the tip of my brush here to get those little areas of grass that kind of jut out into the water. I would leave a little bit of white paper here and there, bits of water. Maybe there's, it's kind of marshy over here. Let's leave those little bits of white paper for the water here and there, not everywhere. This is really looking good. And we're just going to go out here like that. We'll leave some more white over here. Looks good. Okay, we're doing a good job here. We're actually getting in some really nice washes for these grassy areas over here. They're kind of marshy with those little bits of water in there. Let's get some more yellow ochre and sap green, olive green, yellow ochre. That's kind of the good mix we're going to use here. And then let's do this here too. Let's get that in there. Like that. And this is in the foreground, so we could leave a little bit of sparkling. Maybe there's some water. So we leave a little bit of that white paper. We're using Fabriano rough paper. So that actually works great because you can kind of get those little broken bits of white paper here and there. It gives you that feel of water. Looks good there. Okay, so we're actually moving right along. Then next we're going to let this set up and dry a little bit. We might take a break now, and the reason I say that is because we're going to start like maybe painting some darks along the underside here, like this. But if it's still wet, the washes, it'll kind of start to bleed out into the other areas. So we want to keep really fine lines, fine darks under here like this. So to do that, we'll really need to let these grass areas, these green grass areas dry. And then this way it'll be much easier. There won't be any funny blossoming and blooming and things like that going on. And back here's pretty dry. Okay, all right, so we are in really good shape right now. We're almost completed. We got a lot of work done. All we have to do is really the finishing touches. We're going to do a little more shadowing under these areas here, like that. But when we do that, we just have to be really careful that it's not going to start to get out of control. And that's why if we let this just dry 5 minutes or 10 minutes, it'll be so much easier. Over here is probably dry. We could do this, I bet. Yep, that looks good. So we do some of that shoreline there. And then we can even let some of it kind of mix in. Some of those like that. So it is good to sometimes let things kind of mellow out and blend into. What we wouldn't want probably is a lot of just dark lines everywhere. So it is good to kind of let it blend in to the green grass, some of those darks, but you have to kind of feel it out and see how it goes. But we are looking pretty good. All right, let's take a quick break and we'll come right back and finish up. Hey everybody, just a quick informational. I'm really excited. I've been invited to the Thousand Island Arts Center to teach a workshop this summer. It's August 9th, 10th, and 11th, which is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And it's a daytime workshop, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. We're going to have an absolutely fantastic time. I'm going to put up the itinerary in just a second too as well, but I wanted you to have the Thousand Island Arts Center phone number so you can call to register, or you can also register online. That's up to you. Their phone number is 315-686-4123. Again, their phone number is 315-686-4123. Or you can also register and look up all the information online at TIARTSCENTER.org. Again, their website is TIARTSCENTER.org. I'll put the itinerary up here so you can I'll scroll it. I'm not going to read it. I'll just kind of scroll it up so you can kind of see the class description. And you can look this up online too. I encourage everybody to look for the brochure. If you go to the website, you'll see a brochure button. You click on that brochure button, you'll see my course, as well as other courses if you can't happen to make these dates, but you still want to take a watercolor class or watercolor course and workshop. And there's also an online course for watercolor artists. So if you're interested in doing online watercolor courses, they have those as well. That's something this is a great resource, everyone, for your watercolor art. I know some of you mentioned that you wanted to inquire about online art and watercolor painting classes. I'm not doing them right now. I'm really looking forward to maybe in the future doing some online courses, but right now I'm just not geared up for that right now. So they have them though for those that want to do online courses. But just a great resource and Beautiful historic area, beautiful scenery, water and boats everywhere, beautiful architecture, shopping. There's museums. So that's the itinerary. And I hope you'll all make it out to the workshop. And again, we're going to have a great time, tons of fun drawing and painting in watercolor. So I hope to see you there. And let's get back to our watercolor painting. Okay, we having fun or what? We're finishing up this painting, and that's always a great time. We're enjoying everything, looking good. We're doing a great job so far. So once you have sort of that feeling of, wow, things are 90% complete and it's looking really good, now we just know we don't want to do anything too much more work to it. Because if it looks good the way it is, let's kind of not overdo it with details or anything like that. So I'm just going to take my needlepoint brush, and I'm just going to get a little more fine tuning here, as I say. Fine tuning is always good. Try to get our get some things just a little more tidy. If we can get a few more of these really fine lines in here, we're going to be better off, I think. We get a couple of these like that, just to tantalize our viewer who's looking at this and saying, wow, look at those. Beautiful green grass and little puddles and things and shadows here and there. And we'll just keep repeating our same colors: Prussian blue, burnt sienna, that's yellow ochre. And just get those in there along these. And then we're going to have a few. I kind of like to do these upwards like this. So we're going to get some bits of grass. These might be more brown in like raw umber and burnt umber and burnt sienna, with maybe a little bit of cobalt blue. Just to kind of get some. And a couple of them might be like this. So these are just little bits of trees that might have kind of broken off and snapped off with some water, some storms, whatever. You can add in some shadowing since we are. Let's add some more blue for shadow. Keep our shadows going the same way. So shadows would be all the same way, pretty much like that. Shadows go a long way too. They look really good. We could do something a little more. We could do something like this over here. Something a little more interesting, a little larger of like a small tree. Just like a little bit. I wouldn't go too much there. Just like that. Good enough. Like that. A little bit of a shadowing there. And a couple more over here in the water. A couple little bits of shadow there too. Make our shadows in the water, just little squiggly lines like that. Like this. And let's go in. I'll get a little bit of blue in the burnt umber that we mixed here and some yellow ochre, and just a couple splashes. Let's do some splashes in here. A couple here and there. And again, let's get that needlepoint brush, and we'll use our tissue just to dry off a little bit of paint. So sometimes when you're working with your needlepoint brush, it's also a good idea, Prussian blue, burnt umber, burnt sienna, and some cobalt blue. It's good to dry off a little bit of that paint off the brush, just a little bit, and this way when you go in to do your fine brush work here, you don't have too much paint on there that it's going to really start dropping off big droplets of water, and then it kind of ruins the effect of trying to get a really good detail in there. So there's a couple more details in the distance there. Let me get some cobalt blue and some Prussian blue, like that. A little bit of green, sap green. And I just want to get that area there good. So I'm holding back on doing too much. This can be a point where what happens is we start to think, oh, this could be look good over here, this could look good over there, and the next thing you know, we're like adding all kinds of stuff into our painting. So always remember, you can always go back in the next day or 2 days later or a week later and add some things into your painting. But if you keep going and working and working and working and adding too many things in there, then it's really difficult because you really can't remove them. You know, I mean, if once you paint something onto this watercolor paper, it's really hard to try to like remove it. You'll try to fix your paintings once in a while, and I totally understand that. But the key is sort of underdoing your paintings. This is just my idea on it. You let me know. You're the artist. You let me know in the comments section how you feel about that, about stopping a little bit with your paintings and not putting too much in there. And you can always go back in and put some more things in there. But if you add too much to your painting when you're kind of finishing up things on wrapping up on your painting, that can be an issue. I've done that many times, and I still sometimes do it, but I kind of I underfinish my paintings most times. I trained myself to do it, to underfinish, stop a little bit early, back away from it, and let it maybe the next day come back in and say, oh yeah, I could add a highlight here or there, or maybe do a few little things, or maybe add in a figure or two. We could maybe add in a boat with some figures or things like that, I realize, but I want to keep this painting fresh, simple, just a scene where maybe you're walking along the coastal areas here and you're just looking out at a beautiful area here with water and grass and beautiful trees and the mountains and the sky, and there's a little bit of a rain cloud, a little bit of a rain shower coming through. That's the feel I want for this painting, and I think you've captured it as well, and I'm glad you've joined me to paint this painting. So this is it. I'm going to call this a finished painting, and I hope you'll come back next time to create another painting with us here. And I always mention, if you like my videos, please give me a thumbs up. That really helps my channel to grow on YouTube, and YouTube's a great place. You can learn so much about any type of art you enjoy. Watercolors here, if you stick with me with watercolors, you're going to learn all kinds of great information every week, week after week, month after month, and year after year. I've been on YouTube already more than 5 years, so I'm glad you're going to keep coming back. And again, the subscribe button is right on the right hand side down here below. There's it's called subscribe. You hit that, and then what happens is YouTube has a great way of just letting you know I've made a new video. So the next time you open up YouTube, maybe in 2 or 3 days from now, you'll just see my video, the next video I've created. You'll see it there in your YouTube channel when you open up YouTube. And that's all it is. It just lets you know that I've made another video, and it shows you it's right there, and then you can click on it if you want to watch it and peruse through it and so forth. So that's all the subscribe button really is. It just helps you to keep track of what I'm doing, and YouTube has that great feature where if you subscribe, you'll be notified that I've created a new video, and you can work along with us and have a great time. So we're having a great time here, and see you soon. See you on the next video. Thanks so much for joining along, and happy painting, everybody. Okay, we'll see you soon.